Look, if you've been following this whole Shedeur Sanders situation, you already know it's a mess. But before we dive into how the Cleveland Browns just committed franchise suicide on national television, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button right now. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers, and every single one of you watching helps get us there. It takes 2 seconds. Just click it. Alright, let's get into this disaster. So the Cleveland Browns decided to bench Shedeur Sanders, and the entire football world lost its mind. Not just a little bit either. We're talking full meltdown, nuclear fallout, burn it all down chaos. And honestly, they deserved every bit of backlash they got, because what they did wasn't just bad coaching, it was sabotage. Pure calculated sabotage of their own future. Let's set the scene here. The NFL had been hyping this game for weeks. Shedeur Sanders, the golden boy, the next big thing, the quarterback everyone wanted to see, was finally getting his shot under the bright lights. Primetime game, national audience. The whole country tuning in to watch this kid ball out. ESPN had graphics ready. Amazon Prime had special camera angles set up just for him. Social media was buzzing. Betting lines were set. Fantasy owners were locked in. This was supposed to be the moment. The debut everyone had been waiting for. And then Kevin Stefanski, in all his infinite wisdom, decides to start Joe Flacco instead. Joe Flacco, a guy who should be on someone's couch watching Jeopardy, not starting an NFL game in 2025. The second that decision came out, you could feel the energy shift. Fans in the stadium looked confused. People watching at home were refreshing their apps thinking it had to be a mistake. Social media went from hyped to hostile in about 30 seconds flat. This wasn't just a lineup change, this was a betrayal. Now look, I get it. Coaches want to make their own decisions. They want to show they're in control, that they don't bend to outside pressure. But there's a difference between being strong and being stupid, and benching the one player your entire fan base, your entire marketing department, and your entire front office had been building around. That's not strength, that's ego run wild. That's a coach more worried about proving a point than winning football games or building a future. The game itself was a disaster. Joe Flacco out there moving like he was stuck in quicksand. The offense looked slow, predictable, completely lifeless. Receivers were running routes expecting a young gun to sling it, but instead they got hospital passes floating in like they were delivered by carrier pigeon. The offensive line, already struggling, now had to protect a statue with zero mobility. And the defense, those guys were out there playing their hearts out, carrying the team on their backs, only to watch the offense waste every opportunity. Meanwhile, Shedeur's on the sideline, helmet off, arms crossed, face frozen, somewhere between fury and heartbreak. You could see it in his eyes. This wasn't just disappointment, this was humiliation. Word started leaking that he found out he wasn't starting barely an hour before kickoff. Imagine that. You spend all week preparing, you do your warm-ups, you lock in mentally for the biggest game of your life, and then someone taps you on the shoulder and says, yeah, never mind, Joe's starting. That's disrespectful on a level most people can't even comprehend. And it gets worse. There was one play, 4th and 1, where they went empty backfield with Shedeur finally in the game. Empty on 4th and 1 with a rookie quarterback who hasn't been getting consistent reps. That's the kind of play call that makes you wonder if the coaching staff even wants him to succeed. You put a young guy in the hardest possible situation, give him zero help, and when it doesn't work out, you bench him again. It's like setting someone up to fail and then blaming them for failing. The ratings told the whole story. By halftime, viewership had dropped from over 18 million to around 11 million. By the fourth quarter, it was down to 9 million. That's a 40% drop. In the NFL, that's catastrophic. Network executives were panicking. Advertisers were demanding answers. Streaming platforms saw people logging off in real time. The whole system runs on eyeballs, and those eyeballs disappeared the second Shedeur got benched. But it wasn't just the TV ratings. Stadiums that had been packed for preseason games with Shedeur suddenly had entire sections sitting empty. Concession stands weren't full of hungry fans. They were full of angry ones, venting to anyone who would listen. Merchandise sales cratered. People were actually returning Shedeur jerseys they'd bought weeks earlier. One vendor said it felt like Black Friday in reverse. Instead of buying, everyone was returning. That's how deep the betrayal cut. And the gambling world went absolutely nuclear. Sportsbooks had set all their lines assuming Shedeur was starting. Prop bets, parlays, fantasy lineups, all of it was built around him playing. When he didn't, thousands of people flooded customer service lines demanding refunds. Fantasy owners were staring at 0 points from their quarterback slot like they'd just been robbed. And honestly, they had been. Cleveland pulled a bait and switch on a massive scale, and people were rightfully furious. Even inside the building, things were falling apart. The locker room split immediately. Younger players were out here liking posts on social media calling for Shedeur to start. Some were sharing memes mocking Stefanski's decision. Veterans tried to play it cool publicly, but you could see the frustration. The offensive players who'd built chemistry with Shedeur all preseason suddenly had to adjust to a completely different pace and style. The defense was exhausted from carrying the team while watching the offense sputter. It was chaos. And ownership, Jimmy Haslam, the guy who pushed to draft Shedeur in the first place, was reportedly livid. He'd built entire marketing campaigns around this kid, poured millions into promoting him as the face of the franchise, and then his head coach torpedoed it all in one night. The NFL had projected higher ticket sales, bigger merchandise numbers, record-breaking ratings. All of that was built on Shedeur's debut, and Stefanski burned it down like he was trying to start a bonfire. Insiders were saying Haslam was pacing like a man watching his investment implode in real time, because that's exactly what was happening. This wasn't just about football anymore. This was about brand destruction, revenue loss, sponsors getting nervous, season ticket holders canceling. In the NFL, owners don't fire coaches just for losing games. They fire them for costing money, and with every empty seat, every refunded jersey, every canceled subscription, Stefanski's seat was getting hotter. Then there's the Deion Sanders factor. Shedeur's father, the guy who basically built him into a star, started dropping cryptic posts about knowing your worth and never staying where you're not valued. It wasn't subtle. It was a message, loud and clear, aimed right at Cleveland. The Sanders family wasn't happy, and the entire league took notice. Other teams started circling, wondering if Cleveland's dysfunction could be their opportunity to swoop in and grab a franchise quarterback. Agents began talking about new contract clauses to protect young players from getting sabotaged by insecure coaches. The NFL Players Association started asking questions about competitive integrity. This wasn't just a Browns problem anymore. This was becoming a league-wide issue, and all of it could have been avoided if one coach had just put his ego aside and played the guy everyone came to see. Here's what really gets me. Joe Flacco is not the future. Nobody thinks Joe Flacco is taking Cleveland to a Super Bowl in 2025. Nobody. He had a nice little run last year, won comeback player of the year, good for him. But this isn't 2012 anymore. He's not that guy, and using him as a security blanket instead of developing your first round investment is coaching malpractice. If you're gonna lose games anyway, and let's be real, Cleveland was going to lose some games regardless. Why not lose while figuring out if Shedeur is your guy? That's what rebuilding teams are supposed to do. You take your lumps with the young quarterback. He makes mistakes. He learns. He grows. By year 2 or 3, you've got something real. But instead, Cleveland decided to go with the safe veteran option, and it blew up in their faces spectacularly. Because here's the thing about safe in the NFL. Safe doesn't sell tickets. Safe doesn't move merchandise. Safe doesn't get people excited. Safe is boring. And in a league built on entertainment, boring is death. The media coverage the next day was absolutely brutal. Every single talk show turned into a roast session. Former players were calling it one of the worst coaching decisions they'd ever seen. Analysts who usually disagree on everything were united in trashing this move. Stephen A. Smith's reaction face became an instant meme. Pat McAfee dropped one sarcastic line that went viral immediately. Colin Cowherd did a full monologue calling it the most self-destructive coaching call in modern NFL history. When the national media, a group that thrives on hot takes and controversy, all agrees you messed up, you know it's bad. And the thing is, this could have been avoided so easily. Just start Shedeur, let him play, let him take his lumps if he has to, give the fans what they want, give the media what they hyped, give the league what they marketed. It's not complicated, but Stefanski wanted to prove he was in charge, that he makes the decisions, that he doesn't bow to pressure. And in doing so, he lost the locker room, lost the fans, lost the media, and probably lost his job security. Because here's what a lot of old school coaches don't understand. The NFL isn't just about X's and O's anymore. It's entertainment. It's a product. Fans don't just want to watch football. They want stars. They want storylines. They want moments. Shedeur Sanders was all of that wrapped into one person. He's got the pedigree, the talent, the charisma, the social media following. He's everything the modern NFL wants in a quarterback. And Cleveland had him. They had lightning in a bottle, and they decided to put a lid on it. Now let's talk about what this means going forward. If Cleveland doesn't fix this situation immediately, Shedeur's going to force his way out, whether that's through trade demands, sitting out, or just making it so uncomfortable that the Browns have no choice but to move him. And when that happens, some other team is going to get a franchise quarterback gift wrapped because Cleveland couldn't get out of its own way. Imagine Shedeur ends up in New York or Miami or somewhere with competent coaching and actually gets to showcase what he can do. Cleveland's gonna look like the biggest clowns in football history. The fans are already done. You could see it in the stadium. You could hear it in the chants. You could read it in every comment section, every tweet, every message board post. People are fed up. They've been fed up for years, honestly. Cleveland fans have sat through decades of disappointment. They've watched their team waste talent, make baffling decisions, hire the wrong people, and repeat the same mistakes over and over. And just when they thought maybe finally things were going to be different, the Browns pulled this. There were reports of fans demanding refunds, not just for tickets to that one game, but for season tickets. People who'd been loyal for years were saying they were done. Merchandise sales dropped off a cliff. The team store that had been buzzing with Shedeur gear suddenly looked like a ghost town. Corporate sponsors started getting nervous. Nobody wants their brand attached to a franchise that's actively sabotaging itself on national television. And here's the kicker. This wasn't even a close game. The Browns lost. They didn't just lose, they got embarrassed. The offense couldn't move the ball. The kicker missed crucial attempts. Joe Flacco looked exactly like what he is, a 40-year-old backup who shouldn't be starting games. And yet, Stefanski stuck with him, even when it was clear the game was slipping away, even when fans were chanting for Shedeur, even when it was obvious this strategy wasn't working. Stefanski refused to make the change. That's not coaching, that's stubbornness. That's pride getting in the way of winning, and in the NFL, that gets you fired. Because at the end of the day, this is a results business. Owners don't care about your philosophy or your principles or your process if you're losing games and hemorrhaging money. They care about wins and revenue, and Stefanski's decision cost them both. The worst part is watching Shedeur on the sideline. You could see the exact moment his confidence started cracking. This kid came into the league with all the swagger in the world. He believed he was ready. He'd proven it in college. He'd shown it in practice. And then his own coaching staff told him he wasn't good enough by sitting him for a guy who's been in the league since before Shedeur was in high school. That kind of thing messes with a young player's head. It plants seeds of doubt. It makes them question everything. And that's on Stefanski. A coach's job isn't just to call plays, it's to develop players, build confidence, create an environment where guys can succeed. And benching your rookie quarterback on the biggest stage possible does the exact opposite. It tears him down instead of building him up. It sends the message that you don't trust him, that you don't believe in him, that you think he needs to be protected from himself. That's not how you develop a franchise quarterback. Some people tried to defend the move by bringing up Joe Flacco's experience. They said he knows the system, he's won big games before, he gives them the best chance to win now, but that's missing the entire point. Cleveland isn't trying to win now, they're rebuilding. They're supposed to be building for the future, and the future doesn't include Joe Flacco. He's a bridge, a placeholder, someone you use until your real guy is ready. But Shedeur is ready. He was ready from day one. The only people who don't see that are the ones calling the shots. The NFL Players Association started making noise about this situation too. Not officially, but you started hearing rumblings. Players around the league were watching what happened to Shedeur and wondering if it could happen to them. Young guys seeing how a franchise can draft you, hype you up, and then completely undermine you the second things get real. That's a bad look for the league. It hurts the product. It creates distrust between players and organizations. And the gambling community, they're still furious. Sports betting is a huge part of the NFL's revenue now, maybe the biggest part. And when you pull a stunt like this, when you change your lineup at the last second after people have already locked in their bets, you're messing with real money. Sportsbooks lost credibility. Bettors lost faith. Fantasy players got burned. That stuff doesn't just go away. People remember. They hold grudges, and next time the Browns are on prime time, those same people might just skip it entirely. Cleveland's social media accounts got absolutely destroyed. Every post was flooded with angry comments. Memes mocking the decision spread like wildfire. Even the team's own fans turned on them. This wasn't outside hate. This was their own people revolting. When your core fan base, the people who show up every week no matter what, are demanding answers and getting none, you've got a serious problem. Behind the scenes, there were apparently heated meetings. Front office executives confronting coaches deflecting blame, players choosing sides. It was a full-scale civil war brewing inside that building, and all of it could have been prevented by just starting the guy you drafted to be your franchise quarterback. That's it. That's all they had to do. But pride, ego, stubbornness, whatever you want to call it, got in the way. Now Cleveland's stuck. They can't keep benching Shedeur without causing permanent damage. But if they start him now after all this, it looks like they caved to pressure. They're in a lose-lose situation entirely of their own making, and the clock's ticking. Every week Shedeur sits is another week of lost development, another week of fan outrage, another week closer to this situation becoming irreparable. Other teams are absolutely paying attention to this. You better believe GMs around the league are watching, waiting, ready to pounce if Cleveland implodes completely. There are probably trade scenarios being sketched out right now, offers being prepared, calls ready to be made, because if Cleveland's dysfunction creates an opportunity to steal a potential franchise quarterback, someone's gonna take it. The Browns have been here before. They've wasted talent. They've made terrible decisions. They've been the league's punching bag for years. And just when it seemed like maybe they'd learned, maybe they'd turned a corner, they went right back to their old ways. It's almost impressive how consistently they find new ways to mess things up. Like they've got a department dedicated specifically to making the worst possible choice in every situation. And the saddest part is Shedeur deserves better. This kid worked his entire life to get here. He put in the hours, he made the sacrifices, he dealt with the pressure of being Deion Sanders' son and turned it into motivation instead of letting it crush him. He earned his spot, and his reward for all that work was getting humiliated on national television by a coaching staff that clearly didn't want him there in the first place. The NFL marketed this game as appointment viewing. They promoted it as the beginning of something special. They got everyone excited about watching the future of football. And then Cleveland's dysfunction ruined it all. The league can't be happy about that. They invested resources, promotional dollars, airtime, all building toward this moment. And one team's incompetence destroyed the whole narrative. Looking ahead, something's got to give. Either Stefanski adjusts and starts Shedeur moving forward, or ownership steps in and makes changes. Because this current situation is unsustainable. You can't keep your first-round quarterback on the bench while trotting out a 40-year-old and expect fans, media, or players to accept it. The pressure's only going to build until something breaks. The whole situation is a masterclass in how not to handle a franchise quarterback. From the mixed messages during the offseason to the last-minute lineup changes to the stubborn refusal to admit mistakes. Cleveland's done everything wrong, and now they're paying the price in empty seats, lost revenue, destroyed credibility, and a fan base that's completely checked out. This should be a warning to every NFL team. The game's changed. Fans have options now. They can watch any team they want, stream any game. If you're not entertaining, if you're not giving people what they want to see, they'll go elsewhere. And when they do, the money goes with them. Cleveland learned that lesson the hard way. Question is whether they'll actually do anything about it or just keep making the same mistakes they always have.